so we're down to the final portion of our debate. I may have misspoken in introductory remarks. Because Dr. Sarkar spoke first, he'll actually have the last 5 minutes of the concluding remarks, and Dr. Nelson will have the first one.
I won't need 5 minutes. You've all been very patient. It's late. This has been a long evening, very exciting evening. And let me say, by the way, that the Q&A is always my favorite part, because when I come in here to talk, I know what I think, more or less. It's in hearing from you and the questions you raise and the problems you have that I learn and go away to do a better job, I hope. If I have one plea to make, it's not to denigrate evolutionary theory. I love evolutionary theory. It's what I studied as an undergrad and graduate student. It's not even really finally to attack methodological naturalism, which I do think it's a bad rule, but I could live with it if it came to that. I think if I have one plea to make, it's about intellectual freedom and preserving that not only for yourself, but for other people as well. You know, our culture has enough problems. We're split along enough different problems. You know, this county is the blue county in an otherwise red state. You know what this is like living in Texas, believe me. That the model that I would like to hold up is the model that I had set for me at Chicago by Bill and the department and people like Sahotra. You know, I was admitted to that program with them knowing that I was a bad guy, because my undergraduate advisors told them, if you admit him, he's a bad guy, and they admitted me anyway. The model that I would like to hold up is a dialectical model that goes back to the pre-Socratics, and that is characterized, I think, most beautifully in the Platonic dialogues, which is we learn and come to improve our knowledge by interacting with others who disagree with us. Who wants to be right all the time? That's not fun. What's fun is to learn where your ideas can be improved by interacting with people who disagree with you. That's the model that Bill set for me. And Sahotra, despite our many differences, has always been willing to sit down with me and say, Paul, I think you're crazy on X, Y, and Z, and here's why. And that's the model that I'd like to leave you with this evening. Thank you.
Well, I begin by noting some of the things on which all three of us agree. I agree with Paul about the issue that there should be full freedom of inquiry and nothing should be done to curtail that. And that for those of you who are design theorists who want to pursue that research program, you should feel free to do so even after taking into account the sort of issues that Corey raised about there just being a finite amount of time and resources, and given all the different options of what you could be doing. We also agree, all three of us here, that intelligent design or something like that should not be introduced into classrooms now. And I hope that Paul takes back from this and other encounters a message to the folks at the Discovery Institute that this is not exactly what should be done. What should rather be done is to create a research agenda that supports whatever the program is that we want to support. And only after that research agenda gets going and there are tangible results from it should we begin to worry about where it belongs in the curriculum, how we present that to the classes. To some extent, I also want to thank Paul for bringing up, as he always likes to do, examples like the example of the gut or the orphan genes. For example, in the case of the orphan genes, I don't say it poses any problem whatsoever to evolutionary theory at all. So you are in a circumstance over here where you're looking at two different types of organisms. Both types of organisms have a certain number of genes that only occur in that particular type of organism and not in others. And the other has a different suite of such genes which occur in them and not in others. Well, the organisms are different from each other. You expect them to have different genes, and you expect some of these genes to be indispensable. I don't even see how any of this raises any conceptual problem for evolutionary theory at all. The gut problem, similarly, everything Paul said about how the design hypothesis would handle gut could just as easily be done by simply saying there was strong selection to maintain that tube over there. And no matter what happened, the contraption was jury-rigged in such a way that selection made sure that there was this nice hollow tube connecting the mouth to the anus of the organism, and selection didn't care how that was achieved as long as it was achieved in the end. We see this in development all the time. These are not really deep problems for evolutionary theory, but every time. But they are problems. There are serious problems within evolution, and there are problems within our best theories of physics and all of that, and critics always do a really useful task by bringing this up to the forefront. And for that, critics ought to be thanked. Without the critics, science would not. Without the critics within science, and even the critics from outside, science would not progress and would not progress in interesting ways, where at the end of the day you present pictures that are compelling and at the same time inspiring enough to others so that you have a newer vision of the world. And all of that is helped by debates of this sort. So let me just end by saying that there are lots of things we agree on, and start with that.
Well, I'd just like to thank Dr. Nelson, Dr. Sarkar, and Dr. Wimsatt for stimulating discussion tonight. I know I enjoyed it. I hope all of you enjoyed it. I'd like to thank the panel members for interesting and probing questions and for taking time to read through material before tonight and really take this seriously. And I think it added a lot to the discussion tonight, so thank you. I'd also like to thank the audience members who came up with also interesting and probing questions and, took the time to think them through, and I thought the questions were really good. So, and especially I'd like to thank all of the people who are still sitting in the chairs in the audience after 3 hours. Like Antonio said in the opening remarks, our motivation for putting this on is that everyone that walks away will have a better understanding of the issues that are involved. And I think the discussion tonight was really productive. I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone here really enjoyed it. And so thank you for coming.